World building is one of those things where you sit down for an hour and look up to find it's already midnight. You're getting every detail just right, creating something completely new, and somewhere along the way you stop noticing reality, because the world inside your head is just more interesting. Hi, my name is Sophia and I'm a biologist. And one of my absolute favorite parts of world building is creating ecosystems. Not civilizations, not politics, the living things. Especially because I get to create species from zero, something that I find truly amazing. Creating life. Creating life from scratch, life that only exists between the pages of an old notebook, that somehow fits into this enormous world that my players or the characters in my story might never even fully explore. It might be just a weird insect that shows up in some tavern's menu, but it exists and has a place in this creation. Species are fundamental to any world, but sometimes they feel like cardboard cutouts instead of living things, and I know I'm not alone in this. Maybe you spent hours building a species and it only fell apart when your world left your notebook and met other people. Or maybe you read a book where everything makes sense, or watched a video about dragons or some other species of yours, and you see that you probably spent hours adding details that don't add anything to your world's balance. We've all been there, building and rebuilding and then rebuilding again, until you feel like your ecosystems are truly cohesive. I've touched on this before, in my very first video, but today I want to go deeper. I want to give you a framework, a tool you can actually use when you're creating species for your world. I do think that there are levels to creating species. It's a process, not a simple one. But I think it is important to know that these levels are not a hierarchy. You can have species at level 3 and species at level 1 in the same world, and that's completely fine. Sometimes a simpler approach is exactly what your world needs. If a creature only shows up in the background, it doesn't need the same depth as your apex predator. So don't stress too much. This is just a framework, a tool that I hope can help you when you are building your world species. A process you can follow to help you understand where you can go deeper and where you might need to add a few extra details. So, without further ado, let's go. The first level is oftentimes just based on the cool metric. It's the I want a dragon because it's cool level. This is where most species begin. You have an idea that you think is cool, funny, beautiful, or terrifying, and you simply put it into your world. Dragons, vampires, floating whales. World builders will add to their worlds things that they think are cool, without any explanation to how they fit in their environment or how they became who they are. You basically just grab whatever creature you like and added it to your world. And there's nothing wrong with that. Every species starts somewhere, and inspiration is usually that starting point. The problem comes when that idea never evolves any further. When the species exists because you want it to exist, not because the world naturally allows it to. And that's when it starts to feel inauthentic, dislocated, like something that was placed there rather than something that grew there. Level 2 is where biology starts to appear. Instead of asking whether the creature is cool, you start asking why it exists. Every species has constraints. It needs food, it needs to reproduce, it has predators and competitors. It has adaptations that solve real problems. In this level, you make sure the species actually makes sense in the ecosystem where it lives. You understand that a species doesn't simply exist, that it needs a lot of support to be able to exist in this exact location during this exact time period. You understand the needs of the creature. You know that although the creature only appears on scene for a few moments, it exists off-scene for a long period. It stops feeling forced. This species might actually fit your world, not because you said so, but because it follows the same rules as everything else. At this level, the question changes. Instead of asking, wouldn't a dragon be cool, you ask, how could a dragon actually exist? What does it eat? Where does it live? Does it make sense for this environment? One of the easiest ways to answer these questions is to look at real organisms. What role does your species play in the ecosystem? Is it a large herbivore? Looking at elephants or rhinos might give you useful ideas. Is it a small reptile? Lizards and snakes already occupy the ecological niches your creature might fill. Nature has spent millions of years solving these problems. You don't need to reinvent every solution. You can adapt them to your fantasy world. And then comes level 3. This is where I think world building becomes really fascinating. Because species don't exist in isolation, every organism changes the world around it. In this level, you start to think outside of the creature. You think about the whole ecosystem and how it works, the balance of it all. What happens when you add or remove something from it? You might even create a species starting from the environment, asking yourself what kind of creature would evolve in an environment like this, instead of fitting a species into a previously created environment. Sticking with the dragon example, you might start to ask, how does the existence of a predator like a dragon affect the food web? What happens when a dragon dies? Who and what benefits from its existence? How does this one creature change the world around it? So how does this change the way you create a species for your world? Level 1 creates creatures. Level 2 creates species. And level 3 creates ecosystems. These levels are not a moral hierarchy. Sometimes level 1 species are exactly what your world needs. This is just a framework that might help you with your world building. If you want to go deeper into building species that actually make sense, check out my previous videos on minotaurs, merfolk, and vampires. And if there's a creature or subject you want me to cover next, let me know in the comments. Now, go create!